So, you want to save money on your wedding flowers? I'm going to show you how this multi-purpose ceremony design will morph into beautiful centerpieces for your tables. Stay tuned for a great episode. Hello friends, welcome to another episode of Blossoms and Bourbon. So tonight I'm sipping on 4 Roses. I think this is the, single barrel. This was a gift from Morgan Blankenship. Morgan, thank you so much. She brought this to me at our 30th anniversary celebration for the shop, so I appreciate that. Wedding flowers are expensive. Flowers in general are expensive. Let's be truthful about it. One of the most popular designs right now is called a meadow-style design. And a meadow design is basically a semicircle that sits on the ground where the couple walks up to exchange their vows. And so it looks like they're standing in a meadow, and that's where the name came from. The segments that make up that arc, that semicircle, are easily translated into centerpieces for the reception. And I'm going to show you how that works. This design style actually very much replicates and pays homage to parallel design. It also pays homage to a more organic, naturalistic style. So just as you see this go together, you'll see that that's the case. I'm using basically a flat tray. The beauty of the flat tray is it sits nice and flat on the ground. You don't have to worry about really covering this container because the flowers are going to come down low. And because I have such a great staff, they've helped out by covering the front and back sections with moss. In the ceremony, you really are only concerned about the front side, where you stand for your vows. That's the pretty side, and that's the side that you're going to see in all the pictures. But once it gets set on a table, both sides need to be pretty. So you have to think about that as you're designing and make sure that the work reflects that, okay? So we're basically just using a nice mixture of different types of flowers. I want this to look and feel sort of gardeny. So we can group things together, sort of like these 2 Alstroemeria are together. The larkspur is together. Let's see what else Laura pulled for me here. I have some Gerber daisies. What's not to love about Gerbers? The interesting thing about Gerbers, I find them to be kind of a challenge when you're designing with them because of the face. They have a very distinct face, and the face always goes, it seems, in one direction or another. So how do you account for that when you're doing a 2-sided arrangement? Well, you just have to move them around. So you have flowers that face this way for this side, and you have another one that faces this way for this side. We have some carnations, the workhorse of the flower shop. I do love a bit of height to this, and honestly, the height is a really important element about it because these arrangements are seated on the ground. So they need to have a certain amount of height to come up almost to sort of knee level to where the couple is standing to exchange vows. Now, if you think about that height as it translates to the reception and when they're on reception tables, you don't want it crazy high because then people are sitting at this point and looking across the table. So there has to be some compromise in the design essence of that and how you can do a more open, kind of light, airy style up top so that you can see through it and you can have a conversation with your guests that are across the table. Another element about this and the mechanics is this tray is designed to hold 2 blocks of foam. We only used 1.5 blocks. A couple of reasons for that. One, cost. We save money by not using as much foam. The more foam that you have, the more foam you have to cover, right? So you have to have product in that, you have to have moss in it, whatever the case may be. It's also, from a practical standpoint, heavier. So you have to, when you're moving these, you have to be prepared for the weight. By the way, just so you guys know, we passed 4,000 subscribers this week. So thank you so much to all of you who subscribe and get regular notifications of our videos. Please remember to like and hit the bell icon on this video so that you'll get notified of new content. I'm going to just pop a little bit of greenery in here just to kind of show you how this sort of changes the complexion of the arrangement. It does make it feel more organic, more natural. And we're gonna move the greenery out across the ends so that it'll begin to cover up that black tray. The black tray is great, but we don't want to really see much of it. One of the tricks that I love is how you can take a stem of flowers, do a segmented cut so that you get more out of that flower. With the moss, you can just really insert right through the moss into the foam. It's a great product for hiding mechanics, works beautifully for that. You do want to remember that, especially in the case of these as centerpieces, you want some lower flowers too. You don't want everything tall. There has to be a combination of the two, because once these are on tables, these are going to be like right in front of people's faces. So you do want to have some lower elements that are going to visually be appealing and interesting for your guests. You guys, feast your eyes on that. Beautiful, beautiful flower. This is called Juliet. This is one of my favorite garden roses. This gorgeous peachy color that's it's just stunning. It's got that great kind of convoluted pattern with the petals inside. It's really gorgeous. So really, depending on your preference, or if you're a florist and you're doing this, depending on your client's preference, you can do a little more grouping with this, just like we started out. I kind of moved away from that for a minute so that there are some things that are more just sort of randomly placed in the arrangement. It really just depends on the look that you're going for. But with a meadow style, it really is okay to do random placement, because you want this to look like a little plot of garden. You want it to look like it's just sort of naturally growing right where you've set it, wherever that might be. And hopefully you'll notice as I'm turning this that you can see that there is a nice placement of flowers all the way around. Again, doing the segmented cut so that we get two pieces out of this. For all of you who are brides watching, or if you know brides that are watching, what are your biggest challenges with planning weddings and wedding flowers? Is it the expense? Is it that you got hooked up with a prima donna wedding designer who's hard to work with? What are the greatest challenges that you face in planning the wedding? I'd like to do an episode to just address those challenges, and it should be fun. You're working on your wedding. You should be having a good time. This little guy, when you're doing a meadow, is perfect. This flower is called Feverfew, and it is just the perfect thing for lightening it up, making it feel airy, whimsical. So these last two are left. Let's leave those tall. We'll put those over here on this side. Okay. This definitely is starting to have the feeling that I want, which is just loose, kind of open, whimsical. All those terms that you as brides tell us, floral designers, that you want your wedding flowers to look like. I do think it's super important. Again, we talked about putting something low, but to put something that extends too. Particularly depending, your venue may have farm tables, and farm tables are typically wider. So there's going to be a fair amount of space that this arrangement can take up. And while you don't want it to, be overdone, except for how much I like everybody to notice the flowers, realistically, you can take some room doing this. All right, let's take some of this laurel, which is going to be great at hiding this tray here. One of the things that is important to remember as you're using a design that's going to become a part of a multiple. So to create that meadow, we would need a number of these, probably at least 8 or 10 of these and maybe even some that are a little bit longer, to create that semicircle for the ceremony. And then they're going to be pulled apart. But when they're pulled apart, you still have to not be able to see the mechanics. So you want to be able to cover the ends, make sure that the ends are designed properly, so that when they're pulled apart and sitting on the table, your guest is not looking at this black tray or looking at some moss or at some oasis foam. That would just not be good. All right, so as we work toward the end, we're gonna just need to make sure that we have mechanics covered. I'm doing this kind of fast because it's, you know, the video. So, pardon me if I have something that looks a little bit left undone. Like, I can see a little bit of the black tray at the ends of those. When we're doing this setup, to a certain degree, we wouldn't care so much about that because it's sitting in grass. So for the ceremony, that's going to be hidden. It's when it gets to the table and it's sitting on a linen or on a farm table with bare wood that you would want to be sure that that's covered up. So we would definitely be taking more time with that element of this, given how it's going to be used. That's absolutely a point that we could just take more moss and add more moss to it as a way to cover up the mechanics once we're on site. And it is, frankly, it's hard to really design and sort of manufacture these things, deliver them, and set them up in perfect form. You know, there are always things that get broken. So having the moss along would just be sort of a preemptive way to kind of fix a problem. And you could certainly use that to kind of cover some more of the mechanics. So when you're working with your wedding florist, be sure to ask about ways that ceremony pieces can be repurposed. That's an important way to just be smart about the resource that you have available and the resource that you are using for wedding flowers. As I said at the very beginning, they're expensive. You should be able to repurpose them, use them for something else. And a professional florist will be able to help you with that. They'll be able to suggest ways that you can do that and make sure that the design works accordingly. Okay, I'm out of flowers, so I must be done, right? Is that how that works? I see a couple of spots that probably could just use a little bit of moss, some greenery or something. But overall, I think this achieves the look that I'm trying for, which is definitely a meadow. If you imagine, you know, 7 or 8 more of these side by side to create sort of a semicircle, it would be a beautiful place for a couple to exchange their vows and then to be moved very easily inside and placed on a table for dinner. Homage to meadows, right? Let's all tiptoe through the meadows. This has been fun. Please remember to like and subscribe to the videos. I so appreciate you taking the time to watch. Until next time, cheers to you and to flowers every day. Thanks for joining.